Every Sunday there was an article on medicine, and they were teaching something about anatomy or some type of disease process. And they're like, well, maybe if you're interested in the anatomy and disease process, maybe you should look for a career in healthcare. So media actually brought me to nursing.
Wow.
I was a nurse really for about 10 years before I woke up one day and said, I think I'm a neuro nurse. And like it took me that long to realize that. Exactly, that I kind of found my niche. We learned about the Woodhull study. They deemed nurses healthcare's invisible partner. And I thought, no, we're not. And then I started thinking about it. I thought, but if you don't go to the hospital or you're not related to someone who is a nurse, maybe we are a little bit invisible. Yeah. That has to change. There are over 4 million nurses. We are pivotal to the healthcare system. Without nurses, the healthcare system would crumble. Nurses provide a very special and unique relationship with their patients, and we have knowledge that the general public needs to know. Media training is foreign to nurses because it's not taught to them. It's not taught to them in curriculum. I firmly believe that media training is the next step in professional development for nurses. So I wanted to bridge that gap. I wanted to find a way to help nurses learn basic media skills so that they could start to get involved and take those small steps.
Welcome to the Nurse on Purpose podcast, where we challenge media stereotypes about nursing and spotlight the incredible and diverse roles nurses play in healthcare. I'm your host, Malloy. Every week, I'll be joined by a nurse who is reshaping the narrative. From frontline care to leadership, education, innovation, and beyond. Our aim is to show the world that nursing is so much more than what we see on TV. Together, we'll explore how we can collaborate with media and other stakeholders to create authentic and inspiring portrayals of nurses. Let's begin the conversation and ignite change, one episode at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Nurse on Purpose podcast. Today, I have a special guest in the house, and I say special because she is one of the people that I admire for her advocacy in training nurses in organizations on how to engage with media. And I just feel like there aren't a whole lot of people who have caught on to how vital that is. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Rachel Malloy. Dr. Rachel, you're welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I'm going to read some of your bio because I think it's truly impressive just how much you've accomplished. And this isn't all of it, but just to give us a snippet. So Dr. Malloy is the creator behind Nurses in the Media. With over 25 years of experience as a registered nurse and a passion for nursing advocacy, she is committed to empowering nurses to advocate beyond the bedside using media. Earning both her bachelor's and master's degrees in nursing, most of her clinical experience has been in neurocritical care, stroke management, traumatic brain injury, and diagnostic medicine. More recently, she obtained her doctoral degree of nursing practice from Wake Forest Medical School Academic Nursing Program, where she is also an adjunct faculty teaching media engagement to DNP scholars. She is a published author in both text and peer-reviewed journals and speaks nationally and internationally on topics in neurology and nursing engagement in the media. Whoa, what a resume. You have impressive background, and I really want to talk about it today. So I'm really glad to have you on the podcast. And of course, like I usually do, I like to hear about your journey so far, what inspired you to pursue a career in nursing, and then eventually step into the neurocritical side of medicine, and then into creating Nurses in the Media. So let's talk about how you ended up pursuing nursing in the first place.
Sure. So I went to nursing school as an adult. I was a single mother. I was a waitress, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this forever. What am I going to do? And someone said, well, what do you really enjoy? And I was living in Kansas City, Missouri, where I'm born and raised. And on Sunday mornings in the Kansas City Star, the newspaper. Remember, people used to read the newspaper, and
Yes, yes,
there
back
was
in the
always
day.
there was an article. There was every Sunday there was an article on medicine, and they were teaching something about anatomy or some type of disease process. And usually you get your Sunday paper and you're excited to see the cartoons or your
Hmm.
sale ads or whatever. And
Hmm.
I always flipped to that section first because that's what interested me. And they're like, well, maybe if you're interested in the anatomy and disease process, maybe you should look for a career in healthcare. So media actually brought me to nursing.
Wow.
So I went to nursing school. And after I graduated, I actually was one of the few people back in the 1990s that fell right into critical care. So I did float pool for a while and landed first like full-time job in a 32 bed generalized ICU where we took care of everything. So we had all the post-op patients, we had the respiratory distress patients, we had the TBIs. Back then we weren't really treating stroke. This is the 90s, so we really weren't doing that quite yet. We were still figuring that out. But I was the person that didn't shy away from the neuro patient. I was the one that was like, oh, I don't mind doing those frequent neuro assessments. I'd much rather have that patient than some of the other processes. So I finally found myself leaning into that neuro population and held several roles throughout my career, all specific to neuro. But you know what? I was a nurse really for about 10 years before I woke up one day and said, I think I'm a neuro nurse. It like took me that long to
To
realize
figure
that
it out.
exactly that I
Yeah.
had found my niche.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went back to school to get my master's degree. I actually really thought I wanted to work in academics. And
Hmm.
so that was my focus was nursing education focused into academia. And then I got tapped into a role in medical device and educational role. Like that's what
Hmm.
my job was. I
Hmm.
traveled around the country. I taught other people about neurological diseases and
Wow.
how to care for those patients. And I have been in industry ever since. And then I found myself into a doctoral program. I graduated in 2023. And that was really about me, right? Like I've been a nurse for a long time now. I just wanted to go back and learn those skill sets that I
Yeah.
didn't already have that a
Yeah.
doctoral program was able to give me. And that led me into media engagement. So my project for my DNP was that I developed a media competency training program for nurses, specifically for nurses.
Wow, that's wonderful. So you kind of went full circle. You went from media to nursing, back to media, and kind of married the two together. That's so awesome. You know what? I want to just kind of focus very briefly on that neuro, like your passion for that. What really piqued your interest when you were taking care of those patients that made you say, I really love this and I want to continue? Because I think a lot of people have a hard time identifying what they're truly passionate about. And so I just want to hear from you, especially trying to understand, like, how do I decide if this is the niche that I want to be in, whether it's pediatrics, whether it's ortho, whatever it is, or whether it's neuro like you. How did, like, what sparked your passion for really wanting to stay in neuro?
It was exactly that. It was a passion. Those
Yeah.
patients are complex.
Yeah.
Still learning about the brain. There
Yeah.
are things that we do not know about the central and peripheral nervous system that we are just beginning to learn. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I was getting into neuro in a space that at a time where there was a lot of innovation going on. People were really trying to understand more about that disease process. And there are so many types of
Yeah.
neurological diseases. And
Mhm.
so it was just a passion of mine. And I really loved the anatomy of the brain too,
Okay.
specifically.
Yeah, I think everyone has their thing. They're like, I really love anatomy. I like the brain. I like the study of human behavior. So I think that's what it takes to really understand what you're passionate about, because you may not like the process, but you like the end result. So sometimes you kind of have to go through the process. A lot of people say, I don't want to go through nursing school because I don't like anatomy or whatever. But there's so much more to it after you get through that anatomy class. And while you'll be using those skills forever, like the bump in the road shouldn't deter you from following your passion. Okay, so I want to dive in more into the media competency, right? You created nurses in the media and also media competency training for organizations. Can you share more about that training, why you decided to develop it, what all it covers, how long is the program, like who do you train, and all of that?
Yep, sure. So when I was going through my DNP, I took a class, and
Mhm.
part of that was an advocacy portion, and we learned about the Woodhull study. So the Woodhull study was originally published in 1997, and
Mhm.
we learned from that publication that nurses were only cited in the media less than 4% of the time.
Yeah.
And they deemed nurses healthcare's invisible partner. And I thought,
Mhm.
no, we're not.
No, we're
We are
not.
absolutely not invisible. And then I started thinking about it. I thought, but if you don't go to the hospital or you're not related to someone who is a nurse, maybe we are a little bit
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that came out of the Woodhull study was there was 6 recommendations on things we could do to get nurses involved in the media more. And one of those recommendations was to redo the study 20 years later to see if we
Mm.
did any better.
Yeah.
So the Woodhull study revisited was published 20 years later,
Mhm.
and we were not in the media anymore. We were only represented in print media
Yeah.
less than 2% of the
2%.
time.
Yeah.
2% of the time. And golly, that has to change. There are, I think, over 4 million nurses. We are pivotal to the healthcare system. Without nurses, the healthcare system would crumble.
Yeah.
Nurses provide a very special and unique relationship with their patients, and we have knowledge that the general public needs to know. And we're able to share that knowledge in a way that's really digestible and doesn't speak over their heads. If you don't speak medical terminology, things can really kind of go over your head when
Yeah.
people are speaking
Yeah.
to you. But nurses learn that type of communication that makes it easy to understand. So I'm thinking nurses got to figure out how to do this. And the
Mhm.
first step has to be training, right?
Mhm.
It's just like, remember the first time you started an IV, right? You didn't know
Mhm.
how to start an IV, you didn't
Mhm.
know anything about doing it, but you
Yeah.
learned how to do it. And then you did it. You were brave and you did it. And then you're like, oh, next time I'm going to do a little bit better. And the
Mhm.
more you practice it, the better that you got. And I think it's the same concept with media training. Media training is foreign to nurses because it's not taught to them. It's not
Yeah.
taught to them in curriculum. It's not taught to them through their professional nursing associations. They just don't have a place to go to get it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bridge that gap. I wanted to find a way to help nurses learn basic media skills so that they could start to get involved and take those small steps.
That's amazing. Dr. Diana Mason, who was the principal on that study in 2018, said that nurses tend to be afraid, even she used the word afraid, of engaging with journalists because sometimes they feel like either they're not qualified, they don't know, just like you said, how to use their voices, how to present in the media, how to be bold and speak. So sometimes they just feel like they don't have the knowledge that it takes. And you're looking at a nurse who's been a nurse for 5, 10, 15 years saying they don't know. And we're like, you do know. You just lack the confidence to use that voice. You know a lot more than you think, and the public knows way less than you do. So you are in the best position to train and to teach and to guide. Let's talk about what the media competency training covers and who all you're training.
Yeah,
Is it
sure.
organizations, individuals? How does that work?
Yep. So my media competency training program has 3 primary chapters. One is the uses and benefits of media, and that's where the nurses really get the concept of why it's important to engage with the media, like developing that can-do attitude. The second chapter is all about media skills, so how to introduce yourself as a nurse, how to reframe a conversation, how to create key messaging, a sound bite that's memorable and repeatable, what to do after an interview, how to
Mm-hmm.
dress for an interview, those types
Yeah.
of things. And then the third chapter is really about developing your own media plan. For me, I've been doing some podcasts lately. I've been doing quite a few
You're a
podcasts.
natural, I can tell.
But you know what? I had to start somewhere. So this is a format that is comfortable for me. I think I would be very comfortable being interviewed on a topic that I am knowledgeable about, whether that's stroke or TBI, something
Mhm.
around that. But other people may not feel that. Maybe they're more comfortable creating public service announcements to put on social
Mhm.
media, or maybe they're more comfortable writing a blog
Yeah.
or writing letters to an editor. But we have to figure out like what is good for you as a nurse. What is the media form that's good for you?
Yeah.
And then develop that in that area. You don't have to do it all. You can
Yeah.
just figure out which one is right for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the basis of the media competency training program. It has
Yeah.
been developed for neuroscience nurses and is available through the American Association of Neuroscience Nursing. You can purchase it if you're a member or if you're a non-member, and it's actually really inexpensive. It's only $150 for a non-member to take that course.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I know, isn't
That's
that
really
great?
amazing. That's almost a $2,000 plus value because I've seen other courses and things like that pricey, but it's very essential. I don't even think that you have to necessarily want to engage with media in order to take a course like that. I think everyone should take that kind of a course because it just improves your own communication skills, right?
That's exactly it. I like to say when I say media, think communication
Yes.
because it really is about learning how to be a good communicator. The skills that you'll learn in a media training course, you can use when you're having a conversation with a family member,
Yeah.
when you're going into your manager's office to talk
Yeah.
about something maybe controversial or
Yeah.
having a crucial conversation, or maybe it's a promotion you want to talk to them about. You need to really be able to develop what your key messages are and be able to stay on topic around that. So yeah, it's really about communication. And then
Awesome.
I've been blessed that I'm able to actually teach my media training at Wake Forest School of Medicine in
Yeah.
academic nursing
That's
for
awesome.
DNP scholars. I'm
Yeah.
actually in the middle of a course right now, so
That's
I'm teaching
awesome.
it twice this semester.
Yeah.
And it's been fantastic. There's always a little bit of reluctance because it's like, ooh, I don't know, this is uncomfortable. But as they work through the program, they get some
Mhm.
feedback, they do an interview, they create a public service announcement.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I get information back from them and they'll say, oh, Dr. Malloy, I was so glad I took that because
Yeah.
now I've been asked to be on a podcast or now I've been asked to be interviewed and I have those skills. So that
Yeah.
way, when that opportunity comes along, that you don't say no because you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how to do it. You're actually
Yeah.
prepared for
You're
it.
prepared for it. That
Mhm.
is wonderful. I think that sometimes it just takes breaking out of that shell because you're so afraid. You've never been exposed to the media. Everyone wants to sort of be in the background. Well, not everyone, but me. I like to be in the background. I don't want to be seen. But even this podcast for me is that form of media of shining a spotlight on nurses and what we do. And it was very far from what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do like just be in the background, just posting online. But I was like, let me bring my face out there. I'm talking about media. I should use my voice in the media. And the students at Wake Forest are so lucky to have this course as part of the DNP program. I think that the first chapter that you mentioned was why do nurses need to be engaged in media? And I remember when you and I spoke, you told me a story about having a journalist pitch you to say they wanted you to do a story and you declined that. So I want you to talk about that and how that really affected your outlook and why you really now feel like nurses need to use their voices in media.
Yeah, 100%. So it was the strangest thing. It was actually through Facebook. I
Yeah.
had posted on a state representative. So it was during COVID. The vaccines were just being released here in Florida, and there was this question like, who's going to give all these vaccines? And I thought, well, I'm stuck at home. Like I'm happy to come and help give vaccines. Like I could do that. So I had said something, hey, if you guys need help, I'm happy to help do that. And a journalist reached out to me and said, I'm doing a story. I'm going to be meeting with this representative. Would you just make a quick little video, 20, 30 seconds, and tell us why it's important to you and why you would be willing to do that? And I
Mm,
thought about it. I'm like, oh, I just can't do that. I just can't do that. I ended
mm,
up responding and saying, here's the things I would say.
yeah.
And you're welcome to use, my
Yeah.
comment back in it, but I wasn't willing to do the video.
Yeah.
And I know I was like, oh, shame on me. But I hadn't gone through this journey yet, right? Like I hadn't gotten there quite yet.
Yeah.
Some other brave nurse practitioner actually did the video and it was fantastic. And I'm really glad she did. But
Awesome.
I missed an opportunity to talk about something that was really important to me
Hmm.
because I felt like, I watched people in my neighborhood pass away from COVID. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt the need for that
Mhm.
vaccine. So I just missed my opportunity, but I won't do that again.
Yeah, of course not. You're a pro now. You're the one who's teaching us to do it. So, yeah, for sure. That's wonderful. A lot of times when you're walking in your calling, your purpose, whatever you would call it, whenever you take an opportunity, it always leads to better things. Like you'll never have regrets about taking an opportunity because it breaks you out of that comfort zone. Because if it's not this one, it'll be something else. You may as well get started in being uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Growth happens during that uncomfortable moment. So if
Yes,
you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. But once
absolutely.
you delve into that uncomfortableness and you
Yeah.
get on the other side of it, then you've
Oh,
got a
yeah.
new skill.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow. And
Yeah.
I firmly believe that media training is the next step in professional development for nurses. And it's going to happen. Media is not going to go anywhere. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
And nurses, every nurse, if I ask any nurse in the United States, is there anything that you would like to change about nursing? Every one of them will have something. Well,
Yes.
in order to do that, we have to have a voice.
Yes.
And so learning how to have those conversations, learning that media engagement is the first step in that. And I think the easiest thing for nurses to do is to focus on the things that are easy, like patient education, because
Hmm.
every nurse does patient
Every day.
education every
Yes.
single day. And there are basic things that we know, they're second nature to us,
Yeah.
right? But the general public doesn't know that. And I
Yeah.
can give an example of that. Like, so for instance, traumatic brain injury, the number one cause is falls.
Hmm.
People over the age of 75 are at the highest risk of falls.
Hmm.
There are so many people that are aging in the United States that want to stay safe in their home. And
Hmm.
they have children that are like, how do I keep mom and dad who are 75, 80, want to stay in their home? How do I keep them safe in their home? Well,
Hmm.
it's simple things, right? Pick up the area rugs,
Hmm.
remove clutter from their walking spaces. If they
Lighted
need a
areas.
mobility device like a cane
Hmm.
or a walker,
Yeah.
or make sure there's good lighting when
Yes.
they get up at night, that there's some lighting so that they can see.
Yeah.
And those are basic, simple things that I know as a nurse, you
Yeah.
know as a nurse, that
Yeah.
we can teach
Yeah.
the general public. And maybe they get part of it. Maybe they're like, well, we've already put grab bars in the bathroom, or we've removed the clutter, but they haven't thought, oh, I didn't realize that area rugs can be a tripping hazard, or I didn't
Hmm.
even think about putting those little light plugs in the wall to help
Hmm.
mom or dad see. So those are
Yeah.
simple things that nurses can, messages that a nurse could put out there to people that's really going to help them. And somebody needs to hear that. And if you put that on social media, it goes to your people, but
Yeah.
then your people's people may see it. So you might not even know whose life you're impacting, but somebody needs to hear that message.
Absolutely. And that's so wonderful. When we also talked before, you mentioned that the students that you teach will often tell you how they don't like the way nurses are portrayed in the media. And I
Mhm.
think most nurses feel that way. Do you think that having more of a voice in the media helps to advance that portrayal to kind of improve the negative stereotypes, the negative portrayals of nurses in the media?
Absolutely. So, a couple of things in regards to that. First of all, with the more airtime and frequency you have in the media, the more exposure you have. So
Yeah.
that's number one. Number two, studies have shown us that people don't really understand what nurses do. They don't understand the different roles of nurses. They don't understand what our day-to-day activities are. They don't understand that there's all different kinds of nursing. And the people that should be responsible for educating the public on that are the nurses. We don't want
Absolutely.
other people to speak for us.
Right.
Nobody knows our job like we do. So by
Yes.
nurses using that media engagement to explain who they are, what they do, how they help the healthcare system, that's super valuable.
Yeah, wonderful. It really kind of leads me to my next point, right? And that is if a nurse wanted to start engaging with the media, for instance, and we know that your course is offered to organizations, not individuals, what advice would you give to that nurse if they don't know where to begin, but they really want to start like speaking to the media, using their expertise to teach the public? What can they do?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So first of all, I'm on this I'm in this weird little space, right? Like, do I offer my program to individual people, or do I stick with my current model, which is really working through larger associations and groups? So the first thing I would say is reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you. My email is nursemalloy@nursesinthemedia.com. So you can email me anytime.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll be in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes. Absolutely.
But honestly, I feel the power is with nursing organizations. Our professional nursing associations that we pay money to be a member of have a responsibility to have a media engagement plan. And
Yeah.
whether that media engagement plan is for their own nurse leaders or whether it's for their members, I don't care. They have to figure out what's best for them. But one of the things every nursing association does for their members is advocate for them. So if you're going to advocate for your nurse membership, you should have media engagement as part of that plan. And if you think about it, like I can take a media course, you can take a media course, and now there's 2 people. But if every nursing association just has 5 people that are dedicated to media engagement, and let's say 10 associations do that, now we have 50 nurses engaging with the media. And so that's where the power is. And when a nurse speaks to the general public about whatever their specialty is, mine's neuro, so that's what I would speak on, then it's not only giving credit to you as a nurse, but it's also giving credit back to that professional nursing association that you're representing.
Yes, that's right.
And that brings power, right?
Yes.
That's where the nursing coalitions come in. That's where the power of the nursing associations are. And we wonder about membership growth oftentimes with nursing associations, like, is membership growing in a nursing association? And oftentimes we find that those memberships are pretty flat, but maybe it's because the nurses don't know the value or don't feel like they're receiving a value from those nurses.
From being part of that organization. Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just emphatically agreeing with you. I think that, like you said, there is backing, there's power behind your voice when you're not speaking as an individual. But you can say, oh, this nurse is a member of the American Nurses Association or a member of the American Organization for Nurse Leaders. It gives you kind of a sense of the word you use is power. And I agree with that. It's important that nursing organizations do that introspective look at what value they're providing to their members, beyond conferences and CEUs, and say, like, this is a very important part of our organizational growth and our professional development as a profession. So I hope that more organizations take heed to that and really kind of tap into what you're doing and use that as a medium to kind of train their members. Because more nurses, I'm 100% sure, would want to step into this kind of roles, but just have no idea where to begin and how to go about it. And a group is definitely better than individuals.
Yeah, me too. I hope that they do too. I hope that more nursing associations come on board to figure out what their immediate engagement plan is for their members. It is a way for nursing associations to advocate for nursing. There's more power in that. And now more than ever, we need advocacy for nursing. More than ever. And the other part of that is role modeling, right? I think that there's something very powerful about role modeling. You don't go to nursing school, graduate, pass your boards, start on a unit, and then all of a sudden be a national speaker, right?
Yeah.
Somebody role models that behavior, mentors you into that, gets you to speak at your first conference, those kinds of things. So media engagement's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's the same
absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, it's like instead of creating a whole new organization for media engagement, just infuse it into what's currently existing. I had a podcast interview recently and it was talking about just that Woodhull study and the Woodhull study revisited. I watched the clip. It was a 50-something minute clip talking about the reports and the results of the study, the revisited study. And they had journalists in the panel. And one of the journalists said that they had like an initiative. It was something with like women in different professions, and they had a group or coalition, however you would call it. And there could be teachers there could be journalists, there could be lawyers, there could be nurses, whoever. But in that group, those are the voices that speak on behalf of that profession. So anytime a journalist needed a story in medicine, they would grab the medical professional that was in their group and say, okay, you're going to speak. And they would train them, all of these professionals, in media engagement. And so they were like, we would love to have nurses as part of our group too. And so I was thinking, we should have something like that, like nurses that have an organization with all different specialties and they're all being media trained. And whenever there's a story that needs to be told, we can say, okay, you're the pediatric nurse. You go engage with this journalist about this story. Anyways, just random thought I had.
You're not alone. I've actually had that thought. I would love to have a registry of nurses that have taken media training that are available for interviews, available for, and there's some trickiness to that too, from the perspective of when a journalist is writing a story, there's usually a short timeline, so you need somebody that can get to them quickly. But if there was a panel, like a group, like a long list of people that says, okay, you're doing something on stroke, as it's May, it's stroke month. I've got a stroke nurse that's media trained and ready to go. So I would absolutely love to have that someday.
Rosa Hart is one that I don't know if you know her. She's a stroke navigator. She's also a podcaster, and she's also media trained. But I'm not sure if you're familiar with her.
I do know Rosa Hart. Rosa took my media training. So.
Oh, look at that! Look at that. Our circle is growing.
She's amazing. I've been on her podcast too. So
awesome.
She is living in the example, just as you are. She's living that concept of nurses being in the media. And the first time you did a podcast, was it awkward for you? Or you're like, no, I don't know. Awkward. Are people going to watch? Am I going to be silly?
So awkward. I'm literally like almost brand new, I guess. Still, I feel a little apprehensive. I'm like, I don't know what to say. But I have to break out of that shell and just know that, my voice matters, and what I have to offer, somebody will benefit from, and just stay in that mindset.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you. So I think you're fantastic. You're representing us all.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So we are going to transition now. We're going to play our game. I know you're prepared, because I'm sure you're always prepared, because this is what you do. But basically the game is I'm going to pick a genre from this jar. And when I read that genre out, you'll turn into your own like show writer, movie writer, or author. And you will tell me a story that you'll come up with that has a nurse character or a nurse lead in it. Okay. Well, first of all, let me ask you what your thoughts are about how nurses are portrayed in media currently.
I try to stay away from them a little bit, because oftentimes they make me cringe.
Yes, everyone says that. And I feel the same way, but I have to watch them because this is what I do.
Right. I used to watch a lot more medical dramas than I do now, but now I'm more of I watch a lot of cooking shows, actually. Relaxation time. I think it's very apparent that even the people that are writing these shows, they don't really know what nurses do. They don't know how to portray the nurse appropriately. And so we need nurses that work in that role too. Yes. And I don't know if you're familiar with Alice Benjamin, but
I interviewed her not long ago.
Oh, she's awesome, right? Like, yes.
Yes, she is wonderful.
We're on the same path, only a little bit differently, but she is driven to try to provide that guidance in the background from a producer point of view, to be able to help navigate what a nurse's role really does look like. And we need people like that to do that.
Yes. And she does a wonderful job. All right. So we're going to play our game. Let me shake it around, because no cheating here. Are you ready, Dr. Malloy?
I'm ready for it.
Okay. Shake. All right. So your category is medical drama.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay. So my medical drama would look different. It would focus around a nurse, not necessarily a hospital or not a physician, but a nurse. And honestly, that nurse could work anywhere. I'm just going to say the emergency room, just from the perspective of emergency rooms see a lot of different types of patients. So that lends to lots of different storylines, right? So it's going to be a nurse. She is going to work in the emergency room and finds her way into doing media interviews.
Love it.
So, yeah, I've got to do that. I've got to tie these things together
That's,
because I think it's super powerful.
yeah.
And so, let's say she does per diem work for a local news station. So, she begins doing every once in a while, they'll have her come in as the healthcare correspondent. She'll
Mhm.
do some kind of a segment on the health news story. And then there'll be the other part of the drama will be different people in the community will see whatever it is she does. So, let's say she does a segment on cardiovascular injury. Maybe it's a heart attack. So signs and symptoms of a heart attack and what to do. And then in the emergency room, someone comes in through the emergency room and they have a heart attack, and she's the one that responds to them in the emergency room, and they recognize her as the lady from television, right?
Yeah.
And so now they feel comforted because they saw this person on television talking about this. And when they saw him on television, they thought, oh, that person's an expert because they're on TV talking about it. And now that person is taking care of me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a circle. The same
Yeah.
thing there's so many storylines that could happen in this medical drama
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah.
right? It could be, she could post something out, say, on social media around signs and symptoms of stroke.
Yeah.
Somebody sees that. Then their family member, right, recognize that. They come in through the emergency department.
Awesome.
That patient gets treated timely because, time is brain. And then the hospital administrator gets a whiff on, oh, you knew to come in because you saw this thing that one of our nurses did.
Nurses,
and
wow.
then that hospital administrator says, well, would you make some healthcare media engagement type things for us representing the hospital? And so this cycle can go on and all different kinds of things. There could be pediatrics and all different kinds of stuff. The possibilities are really endless, but at the end of the day, it's a nurse caring for her patients, sharing the knowledge that she knows. It's impacting the community in a positive way. And we just see that story over and over again, only through different forms of media.
I love it. That is wonderful. That's awesome.
Let's do
And
it.
just we should do it. NBC, we're coming for you. That storyline. That's just wonderful. It's like she talks about it and then she actually deals with it in real time. She could talk about psych and mental health and how that manifests. And then maybe she gets into a situation where she is being harassed by a psych patient or somebody who's delusional, hallucinating, and how she's able to tackle that in the ER. Oh, that's so wonderful. I love that. I would totally watch that show. Thank you so much for sharing. Would you
It empowers the nurse too, right? It empowers nurses in the general public's mind because they're like, oh, this is what a nurse does. Maybe I should follow more nurses in the media. Maybe I should, I saw Ask the Brain Nurse. It's a new group on social media that talks about brain health. So, maybe it'll trigger people to follow some of those things on social media or pay more attention to what's written in their newspaper on healthcare.
And dispel some of those negative stereotypes that people carry and they don't even know it. So thank you so much for joining. Where can people find you if they wanted to connect and, just follow your work?
Sure. My website is nursesinthemedia.com. So you check me out there. There's a contact link, so you can reach me there. You can also reach me at Nurse Malloy at nursesinthemedia.com. That's my email address. You could follow my nursing group at Ask the Brain Nurse. We're on Instagram and social media. And I would just be thrilled to hear from anybody that is interested in media engagement.
Thank you again so much for joining. You are so busy and you are so impactful, yet you stay just beautiful, youthful, glowing, and I just love to see it.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here and to meet you. We're fast friends and forever friends now.
Yes, I'm so grateful. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode. It has been so valuable to learn about nursing engagement with the media. I hope you guys will follow, share, all the good stuff, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye. Thanks for hanging with me till the end. I hope you gained some valuable insight into the world of nursing. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear about the amazing work nurses are doing. Let's keep breaking stereotypes and reshaping the narrative together. I'll see you next time.